I think that Harry and Meghan were much maligned. The press and the palace combined together to set the public up against them, to make William and Kate look better, and because there was too much glory going on to them. Do you remember the actual joy after that wedding, where everybody loved them, and that couldn't be allowed to continue because the royal line of succession must continue. The big machine, the big carriage has to go on. I can't imagine that Harry and Meghan would give up their life in California. Why should they? They have a very, very good life. But they can do an enormous amount of good. Because, look at Harry's Invictus Games. Look at and actually, it's always blame the woman, isn't it? So Meghan gets Meghan has copped it from the start, and I think she has a genuine connection with women and with people, and she's a very smart woman. And you were talking about how they spilled all the royal secrets. That there are plenty of royal secrets to come out, believe me, which they didn't spill.
Welcome back to our channel, and thank you so much for joining us once again. If you are new here, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, so we can continue having these important and honest conversations together. And to our returning viewers, your continued support truly means everything. It allows this space to grow and gives us the opportunity to explore discussions that many people feel deserve more attention. Now, today's topic is one that has once again reignited debate, sparked conversation, and brought a familiar question back into focus. And it all centres around comments made by Nina Myskow, who recently shared her perspective on the long-running media narrative surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. In her remarks, Nina Myskow suggested that Harry and Meghan were much maligned, and that there was a broader dynamic involving both the press and institutional forces that influenced how they were portrayed to the public. She raised the idea that the way narratives were shaped may have contributed to public perception in ways that went beyond simple reporting. And that statement has resonated with a lot of people, not because it is entirely new, but because it reflects something that many viewers have been noticing for a long time. Now let's take a moment to really unpack this slowly and carefully, because this is where the conversation becomes deeper than headlines. When someone says that public figures were much maligned, it immediately raises questions about fairness, balance, and intention. It pushes us to ask whether criticism crossed a line from scrutiny into something more persistent and possibly disproportionate. Because there is a difference between criticism and sustained negative framing. Criticism can be healthy, it can be necessary, it can hold people accountable. But when the tone becomes repetitive, when the framing remains unchanged over long periods of time, and when the same narratives are reinforced again and again, it begins to shape perception in a very powerful way. And that is what many people believe happened in the case of Harry and Meghan. Now, let's think about how narratives are built. They are not created in one moment. They develop over time. They are shaped by headlines, by commentary, by discussions, and by repetition. And once a narrative becomes familiar, it can begin to feel like a default understanding. This is where things become complicated. Because once an audience becomes accustomed to a certain narrative, it becomes harder to question it. And that is why comments like those from Nina Myskow stand out. Because they challenge that familiarity. They introduce doubt. They encourage people to reconsider what they may have accepted without fully examining. Now let's talk about the role of the media in all of this. Because the media is not just a messenger, it is also a storyteller. It chooses which stories to highlight. It chooses how those stories are framed. It chooses which voices are amplified and which are minimized. And those choices matter. They matter because they influence perception. They influence public opinion, and they influence how individuals are understood on a large scale. Now, when it comes to Harry and Meghan, the level of media attention has been intense. There is no denying that. From the early days of their relationship, through their time in royal duties, and even after stepping away, they have remained a constant topic of discussion. But the question that many people are asking is not whether they were covered. It is how they were covered. Was the tone balanced? Was the context always provided? Were positive actions given the same attention as negative narratives? Or did certain themes dominate over time? These are the questions that sit at the heart of this discussion. Now, let's bring in the personal side of the story, because beyond the media, beyond the commentary, there are real individuals involved. Prince Harry has spoken openly about the impact of media pressure on his life. He has connected it to his past experiences and to the emotional weight of growing up in a highly public environment. And Meghan has also shared her perspective, describing the intensity of the scrutiny she faced and the challenges that came with it. These are not abstract ideas. These are personal accounts, and whether one agrees with them or not, they are central to understanding why certain decisions were made. Now, one of the most significant decisions in this entire story was their choice to step back from royal duties. That moment changed everything. It shifted the conversation, it created new narratives, and it intensified existing ones. Some people saw it as an act of independence, others saw it as a reaction to pressure, and those differing interpretations have continued to shape the way their story is told. Now, let's connect this back to Nina Myskow's comments, because what she is essentially doing is questioning the dominant narrative. She is suggesting that the way Harry and Meghan were portrayed may not have been entirely balanced. And that suggestion opens the door to a much larger conversation. A conversation about how narratives are formed. A conversation about how repetition influences belief. And a conversation about whether audiences are now beginning to question what they have been told. Now let's talk about audience awareness, because this is one of the most important shifts we are seeing today. Audiences are no longer passive, they are active, they are engaged, they are questioning, they are comparing different perspectives, and they are forming their own conclusions. This is a significant change, because it means that narratives are no longer accepted without scrutiny. They are being challenged, they are being re-examined, and they are being discussed in new ways. Now, let's go even deeper, because what we are really looking at here is not just a media story. It is a story about perception. It is about how people come to understand public figures. It is about how repeated messaging can shape belief. And it is about how difficult it can be to shift that belief once it has been established. Now, think about this for a moment. If someone is consistently presented in a certain light over a long period of time, that image begins to stick. Even if new information emerges, it can be filtered through that existing perception. And that is why repetition is so powerful. It does not just inform, it reinforces. Now, many supporters of Harry and Meghan believe that this is exactly what has happened. They believe that certain narratives have been repeated so often that they have become ingrained in public perception, and they argue that this repetition has not always been balanced with equal attention to context or alternative perspectives. Now, whether one agrees with that view or not, it is a perspective that exists, and it is one that continues to gain traction as more people engage with these discussions. Now, let's also acknowledge that conversations like this are not about assigning blame. They are about understanding complexity. They are about recognizing that multiple factors contribute to how stories are told, and they are about asking whether those factors have created a balanced representation. Now, as we move toward the final part of this discussion, it is important to reflect on what all of this means moving forward. Because this is not just about the past, it is about the present and the future. It is about how stories will continue to be told. It is about how audiences will continue to engage with those stories. And it is about whether narratives will evolve or remain the same. Now, bringing everything together, Nina Myskow's comments have done something important. They have reignited a conversation. They have encouraged people to think critically, and they have reminded us that narratives are not fixed. They can be questioned, they can be re-examined, and they can be understood in new ways. And that is what makes discussions like this valuable, because they push us to look beyond the surface. They push us to ask deeper questions, and they push us to engage with information in a more thoughtful way. So once again, thank you for watching and for being part of this conversation. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more thoughtful discussions. And as always, we want to hear from you. Do you think Harry and Meghan were treated fairly in the media, or do you think there is more to the story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care, stay informed, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.